Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm the Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all, those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com, or give them a call, find out what's for dinner, 714-948-0100, 714-948-0100, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, a big welcome in to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Also, everybody watching in on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, and Wild Cable affiliates in select markets, plus everybody else streaming on pick your favorite social media platform, Facebook, everybody at Chicago Food Favorites, thanks for joining us. Also, everybody in hotels that may happen to be watching this as well in over 500,000 rooms from coast to coast. Here today talking about the Dodgers and the Yankees, and who could have predicted it? Everybody could have predicted it. That's right. Because it's, first of all, folks, it's the number one market on the East Coast, number one market on the West Coast, basically 1 and 2 in these United States of America. Yes. At what? MVP and MVP. Battling for what? The World Series. And they say a World Series championship. They don't really call them world champions anymore because that's why we have this World Baseball Classic thing. Nonetheless, it would be a titanic matchup, of course, and it's going to be a titanic matchup between Aaron Judge and the New York Yankees and Bronx Bombers, and show me the money. Show me the money! Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts and the gang, Freddie Freeman and company with the LA Dodgers. And you know, this is going to be a very interesting series for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of politics involved, of course, because this is what happens in professional sports. It happens in life anyway. But it's kind of what the media wanted. Think about it. They want MVP of the American League versus MVP of the National League, right? MVP and their group and MVP of their group. And so when we look at it, we'd say, well, is Ohtani moving from the American League to the National League, is he at the level of a world champion? Or is Aaron Judge and Juan Soto and Giancarlo Stanton, those guys, they hit titanic home runs. Every one of them does. But you have to ask yourself, what does the media want? Oh, the media wants a 7-game series. Why? Because that's going to lead all the way up to what? All the way up to the 2024 election. Yeah. Listen, folks, you got to think about this. The organizations that are putting money into the advertising and whatnot, you're going to see more and more of these presidential and all these other elections, whatnot, from the senators to whatever, and the governors and whatnot. You're going to see all of these elections all come together over a 7-game series, which is going to lead all the way up to election day. And so this is why the series likely will go 7 games. And in my opinion, I'll get to that in a minute, which way this is going to go. But here's a look back at every Dodgers-Yankees World Series matchup. And I'll tell you, folks, for the first, well, better yet, for the last 70 years, it has basically been dead even. So it's been a long time since the Yankees and Dodgers met in the World Series, but the most frequent fall classic matchup will add a new chapter, of course, this year. And this is compliments of Pick Your Favorite Media Outlet Two most storied franchises in Major League Baseball will clash in the World Series for the 12th time, beginning, of course, on Friday at Dodger Stadium. Chavez Ravine, one of the best ballparks in America. And that's 5 more meetings than any other matchup in World Series history. Of course, the Yankees and the Giants squared off 7 times. That's quite a bit. And that's primarily when the Yankees and the Giants were playing both games in New York with the New York Baseball Giants. That's right. And of course, in case you're wondering, folks, you see this color of blue that I'm wearing right here. It looks like New York Met blue. Well, really, this is Brooklyn Dodgers blue. That's right. So you look at the New York Mets and you say, where'd the Mets get their colors? Right? They have this orange and blue, kind of like I've got this flag, everybody watching on TV. I've got this really cool flag behind me. It looks like I'm wearing a crown, but I'm not. It's actually the Orange County flag for the Orange Curtain. But the New York Mets have the same orange and blue color, which relates back to this Yankees-Dodgers Giants thing. Because back in New York, back in the day, remember, they actually had 3 teams in New York. You had the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Giants. But now the Dodgers moved away, I think in 1958, end of 1958, first year in 1959 in Los Angeles, if I'm not mistaken. And the Giants moved away. And remember, the Giants, they wore orange. And the Dodgers wore this blue right here. And so New York went from 1 baseball team, well, better yet, from 3 baseball teams to 1 baseball team. So what they did shortly thereafter, after the departure of the Giants and the Dodgers, well, guess what? They created the New York Metropolitans. And they took the blue from the Dodgers and the orange from the Giants. Right? In case you didn't know that. Of course, the Giants are still wearing their orange with black, and the Dodgers are still wearing their blue with white. But now you have the culmination of the two, and maybe that's why a lot of people in New York don't really embrace the New York Mets, because they're like, well, you know, those guys, they left, and we don't want anything to do with them. And that's okay. That's okay. But the Mets had emerged, and they've had a lot of success. They've had some down years, but they've had a fair amount of success as well. And they almost got there again this year. But that's the orange and blue story. So we refer back to, yes, it was the Dodgers and the Yankees this year, and in previous times, and many, many battles, of course. Again, it was what? The Giants and the Yankees. So it was the orange against the Bronx Bombers. Now it's the blue. And so let's go back to 1981. 1981, it was the Dodgers winning 4-2 over the Yankees, the Dodgers. A lot of people call them the Doyers, and that's a whole nother story to be told later. But the Dodgers dropped the first 2 games in that series at Yankee Stadium, but they came back and won behind Fernando Valenzuela. Remember that guy? They won 4-2. They won the next 4. In 1978, it was the Yankees winning. So they're alternating here. In 1978, it was the Yankees 4-2, and the Dodgers jumped out to a 2-0 lead before the Yankees rattled off 4 straight. Now go back a little further to 1977, 4 years previous. It was the Yankees again, 4-2, and Reginald Martinez Jackson was a superstar and a big coming out party for him in the World Series. Reggie Jackson went 9 for 20 with 5 homers and 8 RBIs and 10 runs in just 6 games as the Yankees finished off the Dodgers. However, in 1963, it was the Dodgers with a sweep over the Yankees, and Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale led the Dodgers to a sweep of the Yankees, in which New York managed only 4 runs in 4 games. You want to talk about dominant pitching? That's insane. 1 run a game on average? That's insanity. In fact, Koufax, of course, won the MVP after tossing a complete game in both the opener and the clincher. And now, you get guys that'll pitch maybe 4 or 5 innings. 5 innings, that's a quality start. What kind of crap is that? I gotta tell you, a quality start, in my opinion, is you're going a full 7 into the 8th or into the 9th inning. That is a quality start. Not this crap where you're going 5 innings and, well, let's go ahead and leave it up to the bullpen, because the bullpen is really what matters here. It's a bullpen game. No, it's not. It's the starters that are supposed to go deep into the game and preserve the arms in the bullpen when you need those arms. Not this other crap. Sometimes now they're starting games with closers and the whole thing. That's just a colossal failing situation as I see it. Anyway, moving on, back in 1956, it was the Yankees 4-3, 4 games to 3 in a 7-game wild set. And that was, in fact, the home team won every one of the first 6 until, yes, a previous World Series. But the point was, in the 6 previous World Series, it was the Yankees and Dodgers. They would have won. You guys would have won. They would have won. So what's going to happen now? Now, apparently, we go back to 1981. That's the last time they saw each other in the World Series. So the Dodgers won 4-2. Is it the Yankees' turn to win the World Series? I don't think so. No, it's because Show Me the Money, Shohei Ohtani has to win the World Series for the baseball message to be sent. Now, think about this, folks. This guy is the golden boy and the poster boy for Major League Baseball. He goes from Anaheim, a losing situation, over to LA to a winning situation. And since all the commercials seem to be surrounding by this guy on TV, this is the guy. He has to win the World Series. So guess what? It's probably going to go 7. The Dodgers win in 7, maybe in extra innings. Ohtani maybe hits a home run or some crap like that, a walk-off home run. Who the hell knows? But that's probably what's going to happen. And I would be willing to bet. Listen, everybody that listened to me just a few days ago, I gave the bet of the year. The bet of the year. Sal the bookmaker gave the Jacksonville Jaguars. I said bet everything, not the farm, everything you own. Bet it, if you're a bettor, that is. Bet everything you own on Jacksonville. There's no way they were going to lose 2 in a row in London because Shad Khan owns a stadium over there. And guess what? They're talking about moving the Jaguars over there. Nobody's going to support a team that loses 2 games over in London back-to-back. That's why they had to split. And, of course, Jacksonville did what? They won by 16. The line was only 6.5. It was easy money. Back here in a few minutes on the Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. That's 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 702-799-9935.
714-948-0100.
799-9935 or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. All right. Well, they've been with us since the very beginning, which we're coming up on 8 full years at the show. That's incredible. That's a lot of shows. We've done well over 2,000 shows now. And, somebody asked recently, and they said, well, are you just giving up on the show? I'm like, what? Giving up on the show? That would be, I don't think so. No, in fact, the show's getting bigger and better. In fact, we've got a really cool couple of guests coming up this week. One from the music industry. That'd be the great Gino Leonardo is going to be with us. Yes. You know him as the guitarist from Filter. Hey man, nice shot. Yeah, Gino's going to be with us. And we're also going to have a guy from the NFL, which we're not going to tell you just who he is just yet. You're going to have to tune in to find out on Wednesday because he'll be with us. And we're going to talk what the heck's going on with the NFC North and probably the AFC South plus others as well. Some of the NFC North is the best division in football right now, and it's amazing. Of course, I'm not really surprised that, of course, my Bears are in last place, if you know what I mean. However, they're 4 wins against 2 losses, and still in last place. That's pretty damn good. We're going to get to football in the next segment here. Back to the World Series here. And we're going to talk this every time the MVPs had faced one another. God knows, it's been a lot of times. Let's put it this way. There's a list of how many times, or better yet, in each occurrence, how many times the MVPs have actually faced one another. And it would be awesome if we just got to watch each season's, eventual most valuable player meet in the World Series every year. I guess that's what popular opinion wants. I don't want that. This is according to Yahoo, by the way. In fact, we're going to go ahead and credit Mr. Brian Murphy as the staff writer for them. Of course, we want to give him a quick little round of applause for his work. But I don't necessarily agree with his statements, but I do like some of the facts here. So he says, of course, it'd be awesome if we got to watch each season's eventual most valuable players meet in the World Series every year. But in this sport, it takes a lot more than the contributions of one special talent to win the pennant. Entering 2024, a World Series with 2 MVPs has only occurred 6 times in the divisional era. That's basically since 1969. But of course, this year we get a treat just before Halloween. With the Dodgers winning Game 6 of the National League Championship Series, we are set up to see this year's likely MVP duo of Ohtani and Judge battle for the Commissioner's Trophy. And of course, first game number 1 is Friday on Fox. All right, so we'll give Fox a little love here. Of course, with a focus on pairing of the divisional era, here are the other World Series to include each league's MVP since the current incarnation of the MVP award was established way back in 1931. Now, last time we saw this was in 2012, Miguel Cabrera from the Tigers and Buster Posey. Yeah, Buster Posey, who just took, if I'm not mistaken, he's an executive now in one of the clubs that we'll get to that a little bit later. Anyway, besides being MVPs, Cabrera and Posey were also the first pairing to battle champions to meet in the World Series since 1954. And of course, each star homered in Game 4. Cabrera went deep in the 3rd before Posey put the Giants ahead of the 6th with a 2-run blast. That game eventually went into extras, and the Giants won in 10 to complete the series sweep. And Cabrera and Posey wound up right next to each other for the final pitch of the night as the former struck out looking, and the latter was behind the plate to secure the World Series. Now, going back to 1988, it was Jose Canseco and Kirk Gibson. Remember that Kirk Gibson elbow pump thing? Well, that was it. Gibson had only one plate appearance, of course, and that was that home run, which he did that elbow pump thing. Anyway, Canseco did hit 42 home runs during the regular season. Of course, I guess some people say he was juiced up at that time. I don't really know. I don't really care at this point. But nonetheless, he only hit 42 home runs. How do you explain all the home runs in today's game? I say it's a juiced baseball. How are we getting so many home runs? Yeah. You give these current guys a beanbag to hit from back in the dead ball era, and they'll probably hit 20 home runs. If they get maybe 40 home runs in the non-dead ball era, but not the juiced era, maybe they're hitting 40 home runs. Think about this. It took a little bit of juice, seemingly, to hit 40-odd home runs. And then they got bigger and crazier. Then the ball seemed to get wound tighter and tighter. And what happened? Now we're seeing 60 home runs, 70 home runs, whatever. And that's why, honestly, as I see it, nobody acknowledges Barry Bonds' 73 home runs as being the essential home run king for one season and overall beating Hank Aaron's record. I don't think so, because there's a lot of suspicion, of course. That's why Barry Bonds may or may not have taken some illegal substance to help himself out. I don't know. I wasn't a part of that. But we all have opinions on this. But nonetheless, these 42 home runs that Canseco hit back in 1988, that's a whole different situation. In fact, I went to that World Series. I went to Game 2 of that World Series. I remember that one very, very well. In fact, Oral Hershiser, I think he threw a 3-0 shutout in that game, and he also went 3 for 3 at the plate as well. Pretty damn good. 1980, George Brett MVP against Mike Schmidt MVP. A couple of great players, and two of the greatest third basemen in baseball history. In fact, those guys faced off, and I got to tell you, that was one of those series that, it really could have gone either way. But at the end of the day, it was 4-1 in favor of Philly. But it was a hell of a lot closer if you watched it. 1976, Thurman Munson and Joe Morgan, resistant to, was often futile for the Cincinnati's Big Red Machine of the 1970s, and they completed their quest for back-to-back titles in 76 with an authoritative sweep of the Bronx Bombers, outscoring them 22-8. However, Thurman Munson did all he could on offense and defense, and the Yanks captain had 9 hits and 17 at-bats. I mean, that's incredible. Well, guess what? End of day, we know what happened there, and it wasn't really pretty for the New York Yankees. Moving on, 1975, again, it was Joe Morgan of the Reds against Fred Lynn of the Red Sox. So we know what happened there. It was the Cincinnati Reds. Again, in the first of the back-to-back. That was a very, very, very good machine, being the Red Machine. 1970, Boog Powell and Johnny Bench of those same Reds. But this time it was the Orioles that ended up on the winning side of that when it wasn't the Reds. The Reds were just getting to that point where they were getting really good. They had some great players there. Now, look at the other World Series matchup with MVPs. Pre-divisional era, 1968. Denny McClain, the great Denny McClain. All right, he always gets a big round of applause here. We've had Denny on the show. We're going to bring him back. It was Denny for the Tigers and Bob Gibson for the Cardinals. 67, Carl Yastrzemski for the Red Sox and Orlando Cepeda. The late Orlando Cepeda for the Cardinals. 1963, Elston Howard for the Yankees and Sandy Koufax of the Dodgers. We know what happened there. Roger Maris, 1961, for the Yankees and Frank Robinson of the Reds. We know what happened there. Roger Maris again in 1960 and Dick Groat of the Pirates. We know what happened there. Yankees. Remember, the Yankees have 27 World Series titles, folks. 1957, Mickey Mantle of the Yankees and Hank Aaron of the Braves. Guess what? It was the Yankees again. 1956, Mickey Mantle again and Don Newcomb of the Dodgers. That was the Dodgers. Now, Yogi Berra, 1955 Yankees, and Roy Campanella of the Dodgers. Well, that one went to the Yankees. 1950, Phil Rizzuto and another gentleman from Philadelphia, Jim Constantine. 1946, Ted Williams of the Red Sox and Stan Musial of the Cardinals. 1945, Hal Newhouser and Phil Cavarretta of the Cubs. Cubs lost that one to the Tigers. 1943, we saw Spud Chandler, MVP of the Yankees and the National League. And Stan Musial again of the Cardinals. 1942, Joe Gordon of the Yankees. Common theme here, folks, isn't it? And Mort Cooper of the Cardinals. Another one of the same matchup. 1941, we have the Yankees again, Joe DiMaggio, and Dolph Camilli of the Dodgers. We know what happened there. 1940, Hank Greenberg of the Tigers and Frank McCormick of the Reds. 1939, Joe DiMaggio of the Yankees and Bucky Walters of the Reds. 1936, Lou Gehrig of the Yankees. See, we hit the Yankees over and over. That's why a lot of people don't like the Yankees, because they've been so good for so long. They've had their down periods, but it just seems like they have great player after great player, and they win and win and win. 1936, Gehrig and Hubble of the Giants. 1935, Hank Greenberg, again of the Tigers, and Gabby Hartnett of the Cubs. Mickey Cochran of the Tigers, 1934, and Dizzy Dean of the Cardinals. There's a great name. Lefty Grove of the Philadelphia Athletics in 1931, and Frankie Fritsch of the Cardinals. So what we've seen of the Cardinals over and over in the dead ball era, better yet in the pre-division era, it was Cardinals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times they've had the MVP. The Yankees 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. So you kept hearing the same teams over and over. This is before these division series. And by the way, we don't want to forget the other ones here from 68. Cardinals again, 1, 2 more times. Yankees 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more times. So 12 times we've seen this from the Yankees. That's why people got sick of them. But you know what? They're fun to watch. They hit a lot of home runs and they make the crowd go wild. Back here in a few minutes, talk some college football in just a few moments, folks. Don't go anywhere. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello Americans, it's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time. That's 800-950-2049.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure to check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, a prior guest, or recorded shows, which are podcasts. No, we don't do a podcast. We just happen to have our full recorded shows on those podcast platforms, such as Apple and Amazon and Audible and Spotify and Pandora and iHeartRadio and whatnot. Folks, we're there. Our full episodes are there. We don't cut things out, whatnot. Now, whatever's out there, it's out there. So you never know what you're going to hear. And guess what? At least it's real and we don't cut anything out. All right, welcome back to everybody on TV and radio. Thanks for joining us over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM. Over in Atlanta, Georgia, as well as our friends in Auburn, Alabama. That's WAUD 1230 on the AM dial, home of the Atlanta Braves. Big hello to our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500, KHKA. That's home of the San Francisco 49ers, the New York Yankees, World Series bound, and of course, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Which, of course, unfortunately, they fell to Tennessee in their game, if you know what I mean. Yes! All right. And everybody else, all of our independents from coast to coast. Thanks for joining us also on TV. Also, a big hello to our friends on Chicago Food Favorites. Thanks for joining us over there on Facebook. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Folks, join in, have some fun, post your favorite recipes, your favorite restaurants, whatever it is. Pick your favorite items, get them out there. There's all kinds of good stuff out there. I moderate it. I actually created the site or the page, the group, whatever. Anyway, it's fun. Join in. It's free. And guess what? There's a little bit of nonsense there, and we like that. A little bit of chaos. All right. College football. How about this? You know, we look up and down these rankings, and we say, okay, I get it. But then you scratch your head with someone and say, I don't get it. So we're going to start from the bottom, and we're going to look. I don't even care about the teams that are getting votes. Let's look at the top 25. How about Vanderbilt? Vanderbilt cracks the top 25 with an easy win on the road at Ball State. They go to 5-2. They actually got 92 votes. Good for them. The Naval Academy jumps up from 25 to 24 with the win at Charlotte. A big win. They tripled up Charlotte 51-17. Next up is Notre Dame. So Navy is 6-0. Army is number 23 at 7-0. Mind you, a 7-0 team all the way down at 23 doesn't make a lot of sense. In fact, they didn't even move up or down. It's because they played the Pirates of East Carolina. Hey, you play who's on your schedule. SMU drops 1, even though they won. Mind you, somehow they go down 1, which I don't even understand that. And they won 40-10 on the road in a conference game against Stanford. How the hell does that happen? I'll never know. Missouri, somehow they dropped 2 slots with a win at Auburn. Come on, War Eagle, what the hell's going on? They lose 2 spots in the rankings. They go from 19 down to 21 with a 4-point victory over at Auburn. Illinois jumps up 2 with a win at Michigan. Now, that's a really nice win for Illinois. Pittsburgh at number 19 jumps up 1. They go to 6-0 with a win at Cal. But yet, they have a division game, or they have a strike that. They have a non-conference matchup. They went on the road, and they go up 2. Meanwhile, Missouri does the same thing, but in the conference, they went on the road, and they won by 4, and they dropped 2. That doesn't make any sense. I just want to know one question.
Show me the money!
Yeah, where's the money going on this one? Ole Miss stays number 18, even though they lost to LSU. How the hell does that happen? If Missouri wins and they lose 2 spots, how does Ole Miss lose and stay number 18? That makes no sense whatsoever. Oh yeah, here's another one. Boise State somehow magically drops 2 spots with a win of 28-7. How does that work? Kansas State goes up 1 to number 16 with a 45-18 win at West Virginia. Alabama drops 8 slots. They probably should have dropped out of the top 25, in my opinion, with a loss at Rocky Top, 24-17. Texas A&M stays the same with a win, 34-24, against Mississippi State over in Starkville. Indiana with an enormous win. We're going to give those guys a round of applause. I went to the sworn enemy at Purdue, and I got to tell you, folks, I am thoroughly impressed with what's going on with Indiana. They are just destroying teams left, right, and center. And it's not even close. These guys are 7-0, and they sit atop the Big Ten. That's crazy. Next week, they play Washington. Number 12, Notre Dame. They're 6-1. They win at Georgia Tech, 31-13. They remain unchanged. Brigham Young goes up 2 spots with a win at Oak State, 38-35. They remain unbeaten at 7-0. Iowa State. Iowa State wins at Central Florida. They win at Central Florida in a conference game. They go to 7-0, and somehow they lose a spot. How does that happen? Clemson wins 48-31. They jump up from 10 to number 9. LSU, with their win, they remain unchanged at number 8 at 6-1 with their win against Arkansas. Tennessee goes up 4 slots with that win over Alabama. They jump to number 7. Miami wins by 7 at Louisville. They remain unchanged at number 6. Texas only drops 4 spots, and they got doubled up by Georgia, 30-15. How's that work? Ohio State, they have a loss. Mind you, this is interesting. Ohio State remains at number 4, and they lose to Oregon. The fact is they lost, but somehow they're at number 4. How does that work? Penn State unchanged with their 33-30 win over in Los Angeles against the Trojans. Georgia jumps up 3 slots with their win over number 1 Texas. Oregon is the number 1 team in the nation at 7-0 with their win over my pitiful Boilermakers, 35-0. Yeah, that's right. Now Oregon plays Illinois next week. That ought to be a good game. Illinois is ranked number 20. They do have some defense, and Illinois currently is ranked number 20. And those guys, yeah, they play defense. They held Michigan to 7 at Michigan. Georgia, number 2, hosts Florida. So Gators come to town for that really fun game that they play at the Gator Bowl seemingly every year between the 2 schools. That ought to be a really good one. Penn State travels to Wisconsin, and that should be an easy win for Penn State. Ohio State hosts Nebraska. It should be an easy win for them. Texas next week is at Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt seems to be a pretty dangerous place. So look, Alabama lost there, Kentucky lost there. What's Texas going to do? Texas, a newcomer to the SEC. Look out, Texas. You could be going into a big trap. Miami plays a very easy Florida State team. It should be an easy win there, even though it's the rivalry game. Texas and Kentucky, a very good matchup right there. I'm looking for some defense in that game. That's going to be at Rocky Top. LSU is at Texas A&M over in College Station. Look for a low-scoring affair there. Clemson is going to be hosting Louisville. Look for a 100-point game out of those two. Iowa State is hosting Texas Tech. They may score 100 in that game as well. Brigham Young, who really plays defense, even though they somehow gave up 35 in the last game on the road, they travel over to Central Florida. That could be one of those 27-26 kind of games. Notre Dame is playing 24th ranked Navy, and that one's at the Naval Academy. Watch out. That could be a trap for Notre Dame. So let's hope that Navy comes up big. Indiana, as I said, they have Washington. You know what? I'm just going to keep rooting for Indiana. I went to the Indiana State school system, so why not? Texas A&M, of course, they have LSU. I mentioned Alabama. They're against Missouri. Missouri may even shut them out. You never know. Kansas State plays Kansas. That could be 100-0. Boise State is at UNLV. And how about Ashton Jeanty? Man, this kid is the Heisman frontrunner, and man, he is good. Watch out for that kid. Boise State could run away with that game. Ole Miss at Oklahoma, or plays Oklahoma. They can score 200 points in that game. Pittsburgh plays Syracuse. That ought to be a very tightly heated game there. We already mentioned Illinois, Oregon, Missouri, and Alabama. We mentioned SMU is at Duke. That's a trap game for SMU. Duke will probably win that game with their defense. They have one of the best defense in America. Army and the Air Force Academy. That'll be a real good one over there. And that's going to be at West Point. We already mentioned Navy and Vanderbilt. Listen, folks, there's some good college football going on here. And it's not just in the ranked games. Watch out for those Mid-American teams, because those Mid-American Conference teams, they can upset just about anybody, along with the Sun Belt teams. Back here in a few minutes on the Sports Circus. Lots more to go, folks.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702
714-948-0100, 714-948-0100, 714-948-0100.
CutChops.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, again, make sure you check out the sportscircus.com website. There's a lot of cool stuff over there. And of course, we're going to give a shameless plug for the Sports Circus because we can. Now, when you're at the site, across the top of the toolbar there is a tab that says Store. And guess what? Christmas is right around the corner. And you could pick up your Sports Circus hats and T-shirts and hoodies and travel mugs and bags and all kinds of cool stuff. Notepads, you name it, they're there. TheSportsCircus.com and go to Store. Of course, a shameless plug for the Sports Circus. And guess what? We'd like to have some of that stuff for Christmas too. But if you mention my name in your order, I'll get you an extra 10% off. How do you like them apples? All right. Nice round of applause for the Sports Circus. And for yours truly. Thanks to everybody joining in on radio and TV. Also, a big hello to our friends again over on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook and everybody else streaming there. Thanks for joining us also on TV and radio in Pick Your Favorite Market, on Pick Your Favorite Network affiliate or independent. Can't get away from us, folks. You know, in college football, they have this, it's kind of an unofficial thing, but it's sort of called the Misery Index, and I love this. This is great. This is put out by USA Today. We want to make sure we give them credit. And they say, at Oklahoma, before Saturday's latest embarrassment, anyway, they'd blame the injuries in the wide receiver room. They'd talk about how well recruiting has gone this year. They'd point out all the little problems that weren't Brent Venable's fault in his first couple of years on the job and how he was still the right guy to fix them as the Sooners transition to the Southeastern Conference. Well, it's why Oklahoma, for some reason, gave Venables a new contract with a $44.8 million buyout after last season, even though it's hard to imagine any scenario in which he'd left Norman, Oklahoma, or even been a legitimate candidate for any other job. That's why Oklahoma went all in. They believe they had the right guy to lead their program into the toughest neighborhood in college football, being the SEC. Well, how's that going? Now, Oklahoma, their loss of 35-9 to South Carolina, who is not really the best team in the SEC, but a good team. And of course, that loss was at home, no less. Represents one of the lowest points in the last quarter century of Oklahoma football, and that may be an overly kind way to frame what's happening this season, as the Sooners are 4-3 with remaining schedule. That suggests they'll be lucky to reach a bowl game. That would mean winning at least 6 games, right? So this isn't what Oklahoma football is about. Whether it's in the Big 12 or the SEC, regardless of the circumstances, there are no excuses. It's funny because in this misery index, I'm going to get to this in just a few moments here, but USC is in there too. And where did Lincoln Riley come from? That would be Oklahoma. That's right. All right, nonetheless. Anyway, Venables was a Hall of Fame level defensive coordinator at both Oklahoma and Clemson, but never made the leap into the head coaching realm. And as he may have remained as Dabo Swinney's top lieutenant, were it not for Lincoln Riley making the shocking move to Southern California after the 2021 regular season. Caught a bit off guard by Riley's departure, Oklahoma didn't have a lot of obvious places to turn, but Venables made a little bit of sense, I guess, because he's already in the system. And of course, he had proven himself as a two-time national champion at Clemson and understood what it took for the Sooners to succeed, having been Bob Stoops' staff member from 1999 to 2011. So he seemed to be the guy. The only question mark was whether his skills as an assistant would translate into the head coaching side, which obviously they haven't. As of right now, the fans are losing their minds as I see it, and I think a lot of them would agree. Venables has improved the Sooners' defense, as you would expect him to. So instead of giving up 50 or 60 points, maybe they're giving up 35 or 40 points, if you know what I mean. It doesn't really matter at this point. Anyway, Venables certainly has improved the defense a little bit, but the offense has taken an absolute nosedive, ranking in the hundreds nationally, an alarming number of statistical categories. I mean, that's really bad. So yes, of course, the Sooners have had some injuries, and everybody has injuries. All these teams have injuries, so just shut up already. At some point, you got to blame the coach. Enough of what's going on there. And so they're all saying, well, we're failing and this and that, whatever. But the most likely move is to move him from the head coach into maybe offensive coordinator change or something. I don't really know. But there needs to be a real change over in Oklahoma, and it's getting ugly. That's why the Sooners are number one in the misery index, a weekly measurement of which fan bases are feeling the most angst. And I would argue number one would be Purdue. Because, man, their football team stinks, and Ryan Walters, in my opinion, should have never been hired. That guy is a terrible, in my opinion, a terrible, terrible head coach. And I always write, whenever I see a press conference from them, wrong hire, he's terrible, and fire him immediately. This guy was a great defensive coordinator at Illinois, but an awful, and I mean awful head coach. Just the blind leading the deaf out there. I mean, they're looking bad and worse and horrific every week, and especially after that 35-0 shellacking at home, courtesy of the Oregon Ducks. Nonetheless, they should be number one. The highs and lows, well, Georgia and Alabama headline the next week, and of course, are the winners and losers, and of course, 4 more in the misery index. How about Florida State and the utter collapse of the Seminoles from the brink of a national championship to forgetting how to win a football game? Remember, they were right there in the playoff picture, but they were left out because that stupid CFP committee nonsensical crap left them out of the playoff, which they certainly belonged. They were an undefeated team from the ACC, the conference champion. They should have been there. Oh, but they weren't really drawing enough audience, so we can't really have them in there. That was the biggest crock of crap I've seen in a long, long, long time. Florida State got really, really, really jerked around on that one. Anyway, moving on. Think about the rest of this index. How about Alabama making the misery index? So it must be awkward to be Kalen DeBoer right now, knowing that you not only signed up to replace Nick Saban, but to live in a world where he's asked to give his opinion on your program several times a week for his television job, while also maintaining an office in the Alabama football building. How awkward is that? So it's an entirely unfair scenario, but at least Alabama's fan base is known for being reasonable and understanding, and they'll get over it. They'll be okay. So I wouldn't worry so much about Alabama. Let's go to USC, because we did mention Lincoln Riley moving over from Oklahoma. In my opinion, Lincoln Riley teams don't play defense, period. It's just, let's see if we could score 50 or 60 points and just outscore them. It's the old Eric Coryell stuff. Nonetheless, USC, it took until Lincoln Riley's 5th season at Oklahoma to suffer his 9th loss, and his 55-10 overall record is one of the more remarkable stats to any coaching career in the history of the sport. Now, he simply didn't lose very often. That's why USC paid him a truckload of money to revive USC's program, and their administrative belief was Riley was a special coaching talent whose offense would not only light up the scoreboard, but reset the recruiting landscape of Southern California that had begun to see a bleed of talent to far-off teams and conferences. Well, guess what? Now they're in the Big Ten. So now they're bleeding across the country from the Atlantic to the Pacific. Riley got off to a decent start, but guess what? The wheels had come off. Only because of Caleb Williams, it basically kept him in the game when Caleb was over with USC. Now he's with the Chicago Bears, and he's playing pretty damn good. Now think about this. This has been a season of change for Lincoln Riley, a new conference, a new quarterback, new results, and new criticisms. And not only has he lost 9 of his last 14 games, a number that nearly matched how many losses he had in 65 games previously at Oklahoma, but USC can't seem to figure out how to win against anyone in the Big Ten. And of course, they just lost to Maryland. Not a great team. 29-28 at Maryland. That's about as bad as it gets, especially after the game turned on a blocked 41-yard field goal attempt with 2 minutes left. That would have put SC up 31-22. On one hand, SC's 1-4 Big Ten record, 3-4 overall, could easily be 5-0. Guess what? It's not. It doesn't matter. They stink. And you want to talk about stink? God love them. God love them. War Eagle. We love you, Auburn, but what the hell is going on over here? Seriously? The misery index, you're in the top of the top. All you need to know about Hugh Freeze's confidence in his offense became self-evident with fewer than 6 minutes to go at Missouri. Auburn holding a 17-14 lead. Just had gotten a big stop and returned a punt to Missouri's 37-yard line. If Auburn scored a touchdown, the game is basically over. Oh yeah, past iterations of Freeze's offense at Ole Miss and Liberty would have immediately gone for the kill shot. Instead, he went into turtle mode. A handoff for a 2-yard loss, a quarterback keeper for a 1-yard loss, and a throwaway play on 3rd and long gave Auburn no chance to get back in scoring position. Auburn paid the price, and Missouri drove 95 in 17 plays for a touchdown and a 21-17 win. Freeze's caution in the moment may have been warranted. Quarterback Peyton Thorne had struggled for most of the season and completed just 17 of 29 for 176 against Missouri. But the bottom line is that Freeze is 8-12 at Auburn and 3-9 in the SEC. Now you ask yourself, is this a Freeze situation, or is it the hangover recruiting all those people that were still there from Brian Harsin? Now I'm going to say it's that. I'm not going to blame Hugh. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to continue to blame Harsin because this guy was terrible. He had no business coming over. I don't even know what Auburn was thinking. Bring Brian Harsin over from the Mountain West Conference? Come on, that's like playing high school ball to the SEC's playing pro ball. I don't know why Auburn hired this guy. Nonetheless, Freeze has to take all the heat until all of his players get in there. It'll take a couple, 3 years for this to happen, right? And so you can't blame Freeze for everything because he's kind of dealt a bad hand. If you're a Hold'em player, Texas Hold'em, so he was kind of dealt a 7-2 offsuit, if you know what I mean. And believe me, that in itself is a really, really bad hand. So that's as bad as it gets in Texas Hold'em poker. So I'm going to give Freeze a little bit of latitude to this. But look, there are other teams that are miserable, but not miserable enough. Nebraska, they're in the toilet. Arizona State, I have no idea what's going on, even though they're 5-2. But those guys, they're playing questionable ball. Michigan, now you saw this one coming. Michigan, they belong in the misery index, along with Florida International. When you play in a stadium sponsored by Pitbull, the fans should be having the time of their lives. But the moment you say, don't stop the party, at 0-6, Utah shows up on the schedule. Apparently, nobody in the Panthers locker room yelled timber because they lost 30-21, giving the Miners their first win of the year. And, of course, their coach is undoubtedly going to feel it this week. Believe me, those guys aren't very good. And by the way, there is a coaching buyout of $1.14 million. You never know. Somebody may be leaving FIU. That's going to do it for the circus today, folks. I'm your Ringmaster Sal. We'll see you in about 23 hours on your favorite station right here. Until then, so long, everybody.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.